Hi, everybody. Terry Heaton here, and it's been a while since I've been on the site posting an update, but I have a lot I need to say, and this is frankly the best way to do it. And so I've decided to come on here and give you a little update. You know that I am a deconstructionist, and I have to clarify what I mean by that because most people, frankly, aren't familiar with it. To me, deconstructionism is a postmodern practice of getting to the bottom of things through deconstruction and a little game called Why Because. You can get to the place where you are really able to understand the cause and effect that has contributed to your own development, your own makeup, whatever. I use deconstruction to take apart institutions and culture, but it can also be used to examine yourself. And that's what I want to talk to you about today is the deconstruction of Terry Heaton by Terry Heaton, okay? So let's begin with a basic tenet of my faith, and that is that I am a spiritual being on a human journey, not a human being on a spiritual journey. And I think we get that confused in our culture because we want to be in charge of our own destiny. So we plan, we go to great lengths to protect ourselves and that which is important to us and keep moving on an ordered path somehow into the future. But that's not the way life is. You know, life is chaotic. In Ecclesiastes, it says that life under the sun is governed by time and chance. So, how do you find order in a world that is governed by time and chance? Well, it can be a fool's errand. And it's amazing what happens when you just let go of that and then begin to look at yourself through new eyes. And that's really what I've tried to do. Believe me, as a child, as a victim of child sex abuse, when I was at the age of 5, uh, I understand fully that my entire life was one gigantic trauma response. That does not excuse my behavior during my life, which I must admit was reprehensible in many cases. So it doesn't excuse my behavior. But it does provide me, at least, with a foundation from which I can work to become a better human being. Because as a spiritual being on a human journey, that's my quest to become a better human being. And one of the things I've learned in deconstructing myself is that the human body, is subject to the human mind. And you know, that's a controversial thought because if you try to oversimplify that, you can find yourself running into really difficult situations because it's not a one potato, two potato, three potato, four thing. It just is what it is. The mind has dominance over the body. And I remember once, a long time ago, I read this book by a woman who was in her 90s, who had overcome cancer. And the unique thing about this particular book and her was that she used to practice a form of talking to her body. Every night before she went to bed, she would speak in her mind specifically to portions of her body, including the bloodstream, you know, right on down to blood cells, and talking to herself even at the cellular level. And in this way, she found that she could direct her thoughts to areas of her body that weren't functioning, and she could, in fact, insist that they start functioning again. And sure enough, this woman was cancer free and died without cancer years later. So that intrigued me. I mean, I admit that's different than what the medical world would tell us. But I believe that the mind is vastly more capable than we even can possibly think or believe. So it is in this light that I have spent the last few years talking to my body in ways that I never did before. And it's interesting when you start doing this because that's when the voice of your ego becomes, at least it did for me, when the voice of your ego becomes so loud that you can recognize it. Because remember that the ego is designed, the only thing that the ego can do, frankly, is lie to you. It will tell you that you are better than somebody else, or it will tell you that you are worse. And as a victim of CSA, I can tell you that I grew up thinking I was worse than everybody else. And that was the voice of my ego. And it was that voice that determined how I behaved, how I reacted in various situations in my life. And again, I have no doubt, I have no qualms about admitting that I was, pretty much an asshole to people around me. And I was never happy with that. And I couldn't explain why I would go off on these explosive tangents and, really make a fool of myself and hurt people around me. And I really regret that, but I have learned from it. And the biggest thing that I've learned is to be able to recognize the voice of my ego and separate that from all thoughts about living life under the sun circa 2025. So late last summer, this would have been August of 2025, early in August, I broke 5 ribs in my back in a fall down an embankment, and it was honestly one of the worst things I've been through in my life. I wouldn't wish that pain on anybody. But it did. Again, it was another one of those events in life that forced me inward because, frankly, I couldn't do anything outward. And one of the things that occurred to me during the process of healing from that is I couldn't move around very much. So my diet was dramatically restricted. I would have to get the food that I wanted to eat that day prepared in the morning and move it to my bedroom, because just moving from my bedroom to my kitchen was extremely difficult. So forced into a situation like that, I began the process of losing weight. I switched to a high protein diet and, no Ozempic here, but when I got on the scale this morning, I weighed 188 pounds. That is the lowest I have weighed in many decades, going back to when I was, in fact, a young man. And in that process of losing weight, I have become even more aware of my body and the signals that it sends, and what's good for it and what isn't good for it. I have completely transformed my diet now. I eat very well, and I try to stay with fresh foods and eat light stuff. And this is completely different than the Terry Heaton that has lived on this planet all these years. So 188 pounds, none of my clothes fit, none of them. I'm going to have to go to the thrift store and pick up some things because, my pants especially don't fit, and I look stupid with my belt all cinched up, and frankly, I need to buy a new belt. So all of these things have been happening, and I feel just sensational. I can't tell you how good I feel. It's a pleasure to get up in the morning, and I don't have to carry around all of that excess weight. The truth is, I have lost in total about 70 to 80 pounds, and that's like carrying around a bag with 10 bowling balls. uh, strapped over my shoulder. You can imagine the impact that that has on the physical health of your body. So uh, the next thing that happened to me is a little over a month ago. Um, I ran into a personal problem with my doctor's office, and this had to do with, again, I'm not all that well psychologically, and I get anxious sometimes, especially when it comes to matters of health. So I had a problem with them, and they stopped being my doctor, and uh, I was forced into the position of needing to find a new doctor because I took every day 5 medications for psychological problems, going back 26, 27 years, maybe even longer. Since I first, crashed and burned as an alcoholic and ended up in rehab, I have been on 5 medications: an SSRI, and named it's the SSRI is Paxil. It's the worst one of all to get off of. I've taken 2 medications for blood pressure problems, one for cholesterol, and another antidepressant. So a month ago, I made the decision to quit taking these medications. Now, please don't interpret what I'm about to say as a license for you or anybody in your family to quit taking their meds. But again, the combination of things, the factor especially that I was losing all this weight, has taken a lot of the pressure off of my body that actually caused some of the problems that led to the medication. But it is the Paxil, the SSRI, the key medication. Being released from that is the one that has been the most freeing to me. I am I think much more clearly, but my senses are alive because they're no longer inhibited by the toxic nature of putting such a medication into my body. So I'm free of that now, and I got to tell you, I feel sensational. I feel like there's really nothing I can't do. My body functions are changing. I'm much more relaxed. I just don't have that feeling of any external pressure or even internal pressure, because one of the things I have taught you here is that I have learned to love myself. And if you love yourself, you will do things that, are good for you, healthy for you, and you'll do them naturally. It's not like you have to make an effort. It's just, and it's phenomenal to me because here's the thing. I think a lot of people know this already, but to me, it was a revelation. Now, I'm a month downstream from having all of these toxins removed from my body. And that too has added to my sense of well-being. So, I wish that I had the knowledge to really explain to you in detail why these meds were so toxic to me over the long run. When you make a determination or a doctor tells you you're going to be on this medication for the rest of your life, don't, at least in my case, don't believe that, because, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And our bodies, our immune systems are capable of doing far more than we think, because we've been taught by our culture that if you're sick, this is what you do. And, even that idea of accepting your own illness, saying, this is my cancer, this is my disease, this is my diabetes, this is my this, that, and the other thing. We establish a form of ownership that we really ought to stay away from. because we don't want those things. And our immune system, again, you can talk to your immune system. You can tell it, damn it, you get your act together. Don't listen to this voice from the outside. Heal. Do what you are intended to do, and that is to take care of the body that houses this spirit of mine. Now, that's a long, perhaps even convoluted explanation of the things I wanted to share with you today, but it's really, really important. At least it is to me, because I'm staring at you through this camera as a different person than I was a year ago, physically anyway. And the physical, again, follows the spirit, and it begins with loving yourself. Now, as usual, I have to ask the question, who the hell am I? And for that reason, I must say that I could be wrong in all of this, because after all, I'm just a commentary.